Have you ever imagined a financial system that's open 24/7, where you are literally your own bank and the rules are just code that anyone can look at? Well, that's the big idea behind something called decentralized finance, or DeFi. So today, we're going to break down exactly what DeFi is, how it all works, and why it's quietly building a whole new parallel financial universe right alongside the one we use every day.
All right. So to really wrap our heads around what makes DeFi so revolutionary, we've got to start with what we already know, the system we use all the time. Let's compare these two parallel worlds of finance, side by side.
So on one side, you've got traditional finance, or TradFi as people in the space call it. This is the world of banks, brokers, and stock exchanges. It runs on trusting big institutions. But on the other side, you've got DeFi. This is all built on open blockchains like Ethereum. And here, the trust isn't in a company, it's in the code itself, which is totally open for anyone to see and check.
And what's really interesting is that finance has always been about technology. You see this quote? Our current system was basically a tech upgrade to solve a massive paperwork crisis back in the day. So DeFi isn't really coming out of nowhere. You could say it's just the next step in that same evolution.
So what's the single biggest, most important difference between these two worlds? Well, it all boils down to one powerful idea: custody. Or, to put it more simply, who actually holds and controls your money? In the traditional world, when you put money in the bank, you're giving them custody. You're trusting them to keep it safe. But DeFi is built on the complete opposite idea: self-custody. Think of it like this. You have a unique cryptographic key that acts as the only key to your own personal digital vault. You and only you have total control over what goes in or out.
This really makes the difference crystal clear. In TradFi, you basically ask your bank, hey, can you please send my money over there? They're the middleman. In DeFi, you are the bank. You use your private key to sign and send the transaction yourself, directly on the blockchain. The trust moves from a person at a desk to pure cryptography and code. And this one fundamental change, putting the user back in the driver's seat, has opened the floodgates for developers. They can rebuild all the core parts of finance in a totally new way. Since anyone, anywhere, can build on these open platforms, we're seeing this incredible explosion of innovation.
Let's take lending, for example. Normally, a bank looks at your credit score to decide if you're trustworthy. But on the blockchain, you're basically anonymous. So how does that work? Well, DeFi has a clever solution: over-collateralization. To get a loan for, say, $100, you might have to lock up $150 worth of other digital assets as collateral. The whole thing is run by a smart contract, which is really just a program that automatically enforces the rules of the loan. No people, no paperwork.
And what's really cool is that DeFi isn't just copying the old financial world, it's inventing completely new tools. A perfect example is something called an automated market maker, or AMM. Forget the old system of matching one buyer with one seller. An AMM is more like a giant, automated pool of money. Anyone can come and trade with the pool, anytime, day or night, and the prices are all set by a math formula. It's a market that literally runs itself.
Now, you might be thinking this is all just for crypto nerds, but that's changing fast. As you can see here, there's a huge new trend of tokenizing real-world assets. We're talking about taking things like US government bonds or shares in private companies and creating a digital version of them on the blockchain. This is a massive deal, because it brings the value and stability of the real world into this new, super efficient digital system.
Okay, so far this all sounds pretty amazing. But this new open world is definitely a double-edged sword. When you get rid of the gatekeepers, the banks, the regulators, you also get rid of a lot of the safety nets we take for granted. This openness creates a whole new world of risk.
You know, the very code that makes DeFi work can also be its biggest weakness. A tiny bug in a smart contract can be found by a hacker, and poof, millions of dollars can disappear in an instant. The anonymous nature of it all can, of course, attract criminals. But here's the real kicker. There's no safety net, no FDIC insurance like at a bank. If your money is lost or stolen, it's pretty much gone for good.
And the amount of money we're talking about here is just staggering. Right now, there's about $140 billion worth of assets locked up in these DeFi systems. Think about that. If your bank gets hacked, you're usually covered. In DeFi, with all that money at stake, you're on your own.
So where does that leave us? Are we just going to have these two financial systems, TradFi and DeFi, running in parallel forever? Well, it doesn't really look like it. In fact, we're already seeing some pretty major bridges being built between these two worlds.
And if you want proof, you don't have to look any further than JP Morgan, one of the biggest names in all of finance. They actually launched their own fund that runs on the public Ethereum blockchain. It basically lets investors hold a digital token that represents a share in a super safe, traditional fund of US Treasuries. It's a perfect hybrid, the old world meeting the new world on its own turf.
All of this brings us to the ultimate question, right? As these two incredibly powerful systems start to merge and overlap, what is the future of finance actually going to look like? Could your next mortgage be from a bank, but run entirely by a smart contract? Could you be earning interest from a global, automated system instead of your local bank? The future probably isn't a simple choice between institutions or code. It's much more likely to be a fusion of both, creating a financial system that's unlike anything we have ever seen before.